one. So as far as the Lakers roster go, it is pretty set. It looks pretty good. Got good depth at everywhere but the center position, right? The Lakers got Jackson Hayes, and the well for other centers is really drying up. Now they could bring back somebody like Tristan Thompson. Maybe they get lucky and get like a Christian Wood or something along those lines. But more likely than not, it's going to end up being like a Bismack Biyombo or somebody like that, right? The Lakers are very thin. Maybe they bring in a Colin Castleton. But regardless, you got Anthony Davis, who's very likely going to be the starting center. And I do expect to be the starting center. However, Rob Pelinka recently revealed that they have had talks, Anthony Davis and him, about kind of going back to the model of the 2020 roster with Anthony Davis playing alongside another big. Anthony Davis has made that abundantly clear and has been very outspoken about like, hey, I don't really want to play center. Problem is Anthony Davis is best suited at the center spot. He is one of the best centers. And I've seen people say, all kinds about like injuries and all that. It's been the same for Anthony Davis regardless. He's not more injury prone at the center position, and he just proved that this year, right? So that whole illusion or whatever is I just don't really subscribe to, but I don't mind them going big. And it's one of the reasons why Rob Pelinka said he went and acquired Jackson Hayes was so that way they could run sets with Anthony Davis at the 4 and Jackson Hayes at the 5. I absolutely can see that happening. And if the Lakers do go get another center, whoever that is, DeMarcus Cousins, whatever, I do absolutely believe that they will run spots with him at the 4. And they should, right? They should do that. There was a lot of people that wanted that to happen last year. Problem is that like, who are you really going to do that with? Thomas Bryant, great offensively last year for the Lakers, but was literally, not my opinion, a statistical fact, the worst defensive center in the league last year. Damian Jones was literally unplayable until he left the Lakers, and all of a sudden he was actually pretty decent for the Utah Jazz, although he didn't play much. And then, once we got the new roster, we got Mo Bamba, and he was hurt the whole time. He only played 9 games for us. So it was like, what other center is Anthony Davis supposed to play alongside? Well, now you got Jackson Hayes, and then hopefully the Lakers can go get another center, and then they can run those sets. I don't believe that Anthony Davis will not start at center, though. I don't. Because how do you fit everybody else unless Anthony Davis plays center? Right? Because you're going to have LeBron at the 4, Rui very likely at the 3, because I don't see them giving Rui $17 million plus a year for him to not start. And then D'Lo at the point guard, which, again, $18.5 million. I don't see them not having him start. And then Austin Reeves at the 2. That's very likely going to be the starting 5. But beyond that, could you move Rui to the bench and start Hayes? Sure. I just don't think that's going to be regularly. Now, in some, if LeBron doesn't play, right? Because LeBron's going to miss 30 plus games or whatever. If LeBron's out that night, then yeah, I could see them maybe moving AD to the 4 and go with Hayes at the 5. Problem is that the Lakers are really going to need other depth. Jackson Hayes, I actually think would be really good next to Anthony Davis. He is a great pick and roll defensive big, really good. He's good help defender. He's still a little raw, right? Still lacks a little discipline, but he's capable of holding his own, right? And him and Anthony Davis, I think, could really sew it up for the front court and be a really good defensive duo. And just the size, the length, his athleticism, his ability at the dunker spot, he's really good in those areas. I think he could fit in nicely. But here's the problem. Let's say the Lakers do decide, hey, Rui, we're going to bring you off the bench this year so AD can play the 4. Okay, fine. But what is the solution off the bench now? Right? Are you going to play AD and Hayes both 40 minutes a game so that way they can, alternate center spots? I don't see that being the case. The Lakers need to get another big man, and it can't be necessarily a small big man, right? In some matchups, sure. Right? You're playing the Warriors, sure. Tristan Thompson as your 3rd big in the rotation is fine. And maybe they bring in, maybe it is as simple as Colin Castleton coming in and they just use him as that 3rd big and they, have him come off. But once we get to the playoffs, then that means your best course of action is just moving AD to the 5, right? Because then what? You're gonna have Colin. You're gonna rely heavily on Colin Castleton and Jackson Hayes against the Denver Nuggets or the Phoenix Suns or something like that. Like I don't buy over the course of the regular season. Sure, they could get away with that, but once you get to the playoffs, that's where I think they need a veteran style center. They need a veteran led big, and they're gonna have to find that. Look, I really like Jackson Hayes. I think Jackson Hayes can be a really nice piece for the Lakers this year. I think he can have an absolute impact. And I do think on some nights you can have Jackson Hayes at the 5 spot with AD at the 4. And I do think on most nights you might see lineups with that, right? I could see, third quarter, you got a lineup of like D'Lo, Reeves, Hayes, Rui, and Davis, right? I could see something like that, or maybe Prince or whatever. You know what I mean? Like LeBron's getting rest on the bench. You have AD at the 4. You have Hayes at the 5. I absolutely can see Darvin Ham running sets like that. But the way it was kind of seeming was like, oh, we want to kind of replicate 2020 and have, our Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee type players next to Anthony Davis, and Anthony Davis playing, mostly the 4. It's kind of how it came off. I just don't think that happens. I don't. Because they don't have enough right now. And look, the difference also, like let's say they do go get another big, and let's say it is Colin Castleton or whatever, right? Difference is that JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard were both veteran centers. And they were both willing to do the dirty work. And Anthony Davis also was able to shoot. Anthony Davis has been allergic to shooting the 3 ball and stretching the floor. And all. It's like, you can't play AD at the 5 if he can't knock down shots, right? Like if he can't shoot beyond 15 feet, you can't, like it's just not going to work. So he needs to fix some of his issues just shooting the basketball. Now, also, again, you had the veteran-led Dwight Howard who had been in finals, had been a guy, like he understood his assignment, bought in, and understood the role. You had, JaVale McGee came in, but still in the big games, the big moments, the close games, all that stuff, who was the 5? It was Anthony Davis, right? Because that was their best 5. So I think you need to go get a veteran big. I do. DeMarcus Cousins, some people want Dwight back, although I'm not really too high on him at this point. Hassan Whiteside, I think I'm still part of that fan club. Like, I'm in the camp of like bring Whiteside back in. I think they need a veteran center, right? If Christian Wood becomes available and really does want to come Lakers, then sure. Because at that point, like talent trumps everything. Go get the talent, right? If Christian Wood is really willing to sign with the Lakers for a vet minimum, you don't say no to that. That might be one of the best vet minimum deals in the league, if not is the best vet minimum deal in the league. So you don't turn that away. You absolutely make that happen. But beyond that, I think that you got to go with a veteran big. Like, look, bring in Colin Castleton. I'm all for that. Like, I have nothing, like, bring him in. I'm hoping they do. Right? I'm part of the camp of like, let's get Castleton on the Lakers starting or NBA roster. But I do think you need that veteran that you can rely on for that Jokic matchup. For like, if you play the Phoenix Suns and you're in a game 7, you can throw in that vet that been there, done that, is not going to make the mistakes, is going to be able to give it their all to contain Ayton or whatever, right? You're playing one of the premier bigs in this league. I think you need that center. And look, I don't mind if they bring back Tristan Thompson, but they need a beefier body. The only exception for me personally is Christian Wood. And again, that's solely just because of talent. That's because there's like literally like talking about adding a 16-8 guy. Yes, defensively he's not great, but you live with what you live with, right? If you can get that guy for a vet minimum deal, you don't say no to that. But outside of that, and I mean, you could still go get Christian Wood and then still bring in like DeMarcus Cousins or something like that. But I think that they need to do that. And Anthony Davis is going to have to step up. again, the way AD has played the last few years, he's not going to have success at the 4. And then everyone's going to be like, why is Anthony Davis only averaging, 21 a game or whatever? And it's like, well, because he's playing the 4 spot. And he can't shoot anymore. Right? Like the bubble year, Anthony Davis was, 40% from three. The guy couldn't miss. That mid-range was automatic. He could shoot the ball, so he was able to play alongside Dwight Howard, JaVale McGee. But since then, he's became allergic to shooting. And so if that continues and he can't get his shot going, how can you play him at the 4? He's going to be counterproductive. Defensively, he'll be great, but you're going to have a lot more of those where was Anthony Davis offensively? I'm not against playing AD at the 4 at all, but it has to make sense, right? If AD at the 5 is the best course of action for this roster, then that's what you do. You keep AD at the 5 because that's what's best for this roster. So AD, if he really wants to play the 4, he's going to need to show those improvements. Right? Again, I'm not saying that you can't do it periodically through the. I just think AD is going to be the 5 to start games. I also think in those moments where he does play the 4, he has to be able to knock down shots. Otherwise, there's no point. If he can't make a mid-range to save his life, and that 15-footer isn't falling, you got to move him to the 5. You do. You have to. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? What do you think about this news? Do you want AD at the 4, at the 5? Have a feel whatever your thoughts are. I'd love to hear it. Let me know down in the comments.